Morning everyone. Well, it's just coming up towards 10:30 in the morning here on Saturday in Les Sables and a lot of activity down in the race village, still building. If you're here, don't go to the village on Saturday and Sunday. It's not really open, they're still building it. And Tapio's now in the middle of the night there. Some of you don't know about this day-night-day situation. You just hit that little icon and it gets rid of it. So you can see dawn is still probably about 4 hours away yet. And he's got another bit of breeze coming. He's got this storm down here. I'll just put it up a bit bigger. But the good news is, and we haven't been worried about this too much because it's actually blowing itself apart as it gets closer to Tapio. You'll see it's decreasing in size and softening off quite a lot, but it's still a bit more than we thought. Previously it was softening off right down here, and Tapio's going to get another 50 knots in that, 55. And the sea, if we look at the sea here, he's still going to have sort of 7 metre seas, 8 metre seas. This is 9 metres here, and as it rolls over, he's going to get just right on the edge of that. That's building up to 9, 10 metre seas as the wind, if we go back to wind here, as it's sort of gone. So you see here, it looks pretty benign. That's probably around 40 knots, 35, 40 knots maybe, or say 35 constant, gusting a bit higher, but he's got 9 metre seas, so very much in the Southern Ocean, and not making huge progress towards the Horn. He's only doing 2.7 knots right now, but he's sleeping, and he wouldn't be pushing it too hard. He's still got, at the moment, if we do a distance measure, more or less 1,000 miles to go. So he's only made really a couple of 100 miles in the last sort of 3-4 days or more. So definitely slow progress. But the good news is, if we just animate this and keep it pushing forward, you'll see there's no storms forecast. Okay, there's a bit of heavy weather there coming through. He'll be down here, but that's Southern Ocean, 45, 50 knot, gusting 50. Again, big seas. It's pretty much all typical to expect in the Southern Ocean. Tapio's boat is definitely a good heavy weather boat. It's so deep in the water and low freeboard, the waves just go over the top. They don't bounce through and smash the boat around. So by this stage, that's the 31st. That's like 5 days away. He's going to be over here. So pretty much right through until about, this is 2nd of February, 4th of February. If this holds true to form, there's no more storms for at least a week. So he'll be happy about that, and so are we. Anyway, all is good for Tapio. We'll now come across here. Forget about that big storm. Well, there's another example. It's not all over when you get around the corner either. Depending on where you are, if he goes out this way, that's a dandy. So it's never over until you get to the finish. But here's the real-time weather now. And, excuse me. Isfahan and Uku, both in the trades, both heading north, but the trades aren't so strong right now. You can see here, I can't really, if I go any bigger, you'll start to lose both of them. It's always nice to see what they're both doing. So Uku is at the moment making 5.7 knots, and Isfahan is also, he's only doing 3.9. So he's probably got a little hole. You'll see these holes here. With lighter winds, very hard to predict. So even though it says he's got consistent breeze, he's obviously got a bit of a hole and going a bit slower. But basically, this is typical trades now, all the way through. We come through a couple of days. Isfahan will be a bit further ahead. This is in 24 hours, so that shouldn't upset him. Then if we come forward again, it's getting light behind him, but I think he'll manage to hook in there. He'll slow down a bit, but here's the drama for, Isfahan will slow down a little bit, but he'll still have constant breezes, and he can put light sails up and so on. This area is one of the most enjoyable areas to sail in because trade winds are just fantastic. But here's the next problem for Uku. You can see the trades. You might remember when Jean-Luc went through here, this region, and here's the equator up here. Okay, that's the equator there. I'll just focus that in. There was virtually nothing. There was a tiny band of doldrums, but now it's opened up. It's nearly 500 miles across. So this area that shows no wind, that's squalls and thunderstorms and changing local conditions. You get a weather pattern which is only 3 miles across, and it can circulate depending on what it is, one way or the other. And you actually try to bounce from one cloud to the next and sort of surf the wind gradient in those clouds. It's quite a bit of fun sometimes, but very frustrating at others. Anyway, so in about 2 days, Uku is going to run out, because this is actually the 28th. No, that's the 28th. So it's 2 days from now, and in about 2 days, if we put a perspective on that, 2 days is about 300 miles. So there he is there. Yeah. So he's right on the edge of this, and he's going to run out of wind, and it's going to hold like that for a while. So when I say run out of wind, run out of consistent trade winds. So he's going to then have to try and work his way across that, and it's holding through to the 29th. It's opened up a bit, more big holes. The 30th, it's still there. Right through, there's the 31st now. So there's 3 days, there's 4 days before it starts to at least show some indication of being a bit of a breeze to take him up to the neck, through the doldrums anyway. But generally very unstable. And during that time, of course, what's going to happen? You'll find that Istvan, this is a bit too far ahead, he'll actually take a bit more distance out on Uku. So it's going to be this tit for tat all the way up the top, I reckon. So now near enough to 700 and what is it, 700 and nearly 800 miles apart. I reckon by the time Istvan gets up to the doldrums, he will have taken out probably another 150 miles, maybe as much as 200 miles on him. So it could be back to 600 miles. Still a long way to go, and still a bit far to think that he might get a podium position, but that's his objective, obviously, and it may happen. Who knows? You just got to watch this space. So a battle in the trades, and looking forward to the doldrums. Now to the real game up the top here. It was very interesting what actually happened over the last 24 hours. I figured Jean-Luc would get some light winds. He got a bit more than we actually thought. So I projected yesterday that Mark would get within about 350 miles of Jean-Luc, but Jean-Luc basically stopped a few times with no wind at all. So right now he's near enough to 325 miles away. So he's gained, even more than I thought he'd gain, and still not in striking distance unless something happens to Jean-Luc. But you never know. There's a lot going on. The other advantage to Jean-Luc actually being held up is that the overall impact, based on the current forecast of this storm, is going to be a little bit less. He's still going to cop it, but not as bad as he had been thinking previously. So you can see Jean-Luc's up to about 5.8 knots now. He's going north. He's trying to get up north because he knows there's some big winds coming and he'll be able to run off. Now, by going, when I say north, he's going probably north-northeast at the moment. He is going away from the finish line here, but he knows he's going to get these strong winds, and it'll be in his best interest to do that. So that's what's happening. And if you come through, there's 1, 2, 3, 6 threes, 3 threes and 9. So that's in about 9 hours. 9 hours from now, you can see the wind coming down. It's all from the north. Very soon, when it gets to these levels, he's going to have to think about, running off a bit. He won't be able to make north-northeast during these winds. And so that's about 12 hours. So that'll be a bit, let's see where he's going to be. 12 hours at 5 knots, that's another 60 miles. Well, there's 60 miles ahead. So at this time, at this weather level, the time for this wind, he's going to be about there. And you can see it's gone through. He's in the 50, 55 knot range there, getting close to these 60. This is 60 knot gusts, so this is forecast 50, 45. Gusting to, therefore you say it's gusting to 55, and the sea, this is the interesting part. So remembering he's going to be about here, the sea is really building fast, and this is not normal sea. This is Bay of Biscay sea. They're close together, they're very steep, quite nasty. And if we forget the wind for the moment and just watch how the sea comes down around, by that stage he will alter course and he'll be coming a little bit away from it. But he will move into this. This is 9 metre forecast, this sort of whitish area. That's 9 metre seas. And if they're forecasting 9, you can bet your bottom dollar that it's going to be bigger than that and nasty as well. So anyway, but the good news, just watching the sea here for a minute, it moves pretty quick as well. So it's dropping back to 6 metres and so on, because he's missed the worst of it. This storm's actually come through quicker, and it's going away fast as well. So the sea then dropping, but overall that sea's going to hold 6 metres for some time. So that's on the 28th at 5 o'clock in the morning. So that's basically 2 days from now. And if we go back to wind, 2 days from now, he's going to be over here somewhere. But you can see there's no wind zone. There's the light winds there. But we'll come back and walk through the wind once again, just so you can see how it's going to evolve. So at this stage, this is now coming through till 24 hours from now. 24 hours from now, Jean-Luc is going to be about here. Okay, so he's going to be about there. Still big winds, but not the peaks. And it's moving away very fast from him. That's only that movement was 6 hours. Okay, you'll see what happens here. I'll come back 3 hours and back another 3 hours. Okay, so there it is there. So so that means that by what have we got? 10 o'clock. So that's 8. So this time tomorrow, Jean-Luc's going to be about here somewhere, and it's all dying down rapidly. So there's 3 hours, and I'll push it through another 3 hours. Boom, it's gone. So this is now 6 metre seas. That'll be 40 knots of wind from the northwest. He'll be able to cope with that as long as the seas aren't breaking. The wind will help it stay consistent, and it's moving away very fast. And it's left behind following breezes, strong following breezes. It dies down a bit, then it comes in again. Those purples are another 45 knots or so. So he'll be moving pretty quick. But if you look at here, there's this great delineation here of the breeze and the pressure. And this now becomes an unknown zone. And this is actually for 6 o'clock in the morning on Monday the 28th. So he will be crossing over, transitioning at that stage into this zone here. And I'll just pick it up and bring it over a bit closer, and you'll see what I'm talking about. If we do, he will have easily done, remembering this is 24 hours from now, Jean-Luc will have easily done sort of 300 miles. It's only a 150 mile average day for 2 days from now on course. Remembering he's going up this way a bit, and then he'll push away a bit and possibly come around there. So I'm suggesting that by early morning on the 28th, he's going to be here, and he'll have about 90 miles to run. Now 90 miles at 5 knots is 18 hours, right? Which puts it into about midnight. Or 8 o'clock in the evening, somewhere through there, provided this is how the weather goes. But if we come back to this, remembering that's 6 o'clock in the morning, let's just look at what happens. It says a breeze fills in, so that he might be able to make 5 knots or something. The main gradient comes closer, so he could sail that in. But you'll notice here, there's no wind here. This is the effect of the land, and there's holes here right along the coast that can turn into no wind. But it looks reasonable, but it's still very unpredictable. This is 9 o'clock at night. So 9 o'clock at night, he may have been able to manage to pull that in and keep an average of about 5 knots. So to make sure that we don't let anyone miss him arriving, assuming Jean-Luc is the first one in, and everything goes smooth over the next few days, we're saying officially the arrival time is 8 o'clock in the evening. Okay, because I doubt whether it'll be earlier. It could, if it's the case. We'll certainly know 24 hours before. So we, and having said that, it may even be later than 8 o'clock. So it's a case of watch this space. Now, over that period, what's actually happening to Mark? Let's have a look at that. We'll just go through here. Mark's done very well to manage getting around that no wind zone. He's flying. He's doing 7 knots. He's got everything up. He's on the hunt for Jean-Luc, because he knows, like everyone else, anything can happen. Yacht racing is really funny. Yes, it's an adventure, and it's been all the way around the world, but you can forget about all that now. The new race starts from here. It's only 400 miles, 500 miles or something. And Mark is now making 7 knots on course. This is the weather now, today. So if we just animate that through every 3 hours, you can see what great breezes to be sailing. And so he'll maintain that average. He's not getting any of the heavy weather, but he's got the centre chasing him from behind. And I really don't think that's going to bother him, because this is already gone 24 hours ahead. So by then he's up here, sailing in really nice weather, chasing Jean-Luc. Got a bit of a kick there, so that's kind of nice. This is about where he'll be averaging, like really nice stuff. Very nice. About this stage, if it all holds true, Jean-Luc may be crossing the line somewhere around about there, and at that stage, Mark might be 230 miles away or something like that. But no big storms, pretty easy weather, great sailing conditions, all from the port quarter on the port beam. And he gets a soft patch here. There's a bit of instability, and by then he might be here again. This is really hard to pick now, and that's why it's very hard to give an accurate ETA of Mark, because it gets you know, a bit confused to say the least. You've got these sort of northerlies coming here, you've got screaming westerlies, you've got a no-wind patch here, so very hard to predict when Mark will get in, but, you know, we'll have to wait and see. I'll just push this through and you can see how it evolves. Looks like a solid breeze coming down, so he gets a big kick at the end, and he'll probably be in somewhere on that one there, I reckon. So it could be a fast finish, but we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, we'll keep you updated on ETAs here, and the race continues. Thanks a lot.